we are joined now by Cynthia Frelund from the NFL Network. Cynthia, how are we doing this morning?
Doing great, thank you. How are you guys?
We are hanging in there, and guess what? We're not going to start with quarterback talk. Well, you may end up getting there with this question, but I, I, I get it's the way they play, and it's kind of his style. But were the Lions not driving you crazy as the hometown kid?
Yeah, I mean, I I kind of anticipated this. Number one, first of all, that the Eagles defense right now is in like just stranglehold mode. Like it's just like feels like they're suffocating people, and it's not like their defense is just playing really well. But if you go back, I rewatched it already, and there's a lot of throws where Jared Goff just missed,
Yeah.
and they were open receivers. The plan was good, but I'll also put an asterisk there and say he's used to Sam Laporta being there. There was a whole bunch of missing pieces on the defense. It was very windy. Like there just was a lot going on. This feels like the like Jared Goff moment where we see it once or twice a year. There's just like not a good. It's just not a good game. It was indoor last year. I mean against Houston it looked crazy. So I'm not going to say I'm not worried, but I wasn't super surprised if that makes sense.
I thought it might eventually get back to a quarterback because that was about as bad as I've seen golf since the 5 picks in the playoffs. Just inaccurate. So, what do you kind of chalk that up to at this stage of the season on that stage in general?
I think I mean, look, you have not to say that Dan Campbell is a new play caller because we don't know exactly how long he's been calling plays, but your play caller is different. Things are changed. I will say there is something about Jared Goff and cold temperatures that it's like, it is at least correlated. I don't know if it's causal, but it's correlated. You have to, there's a little bit more that goes into it to make it causal, but ultimately, I think there's a little bit of that like adjusting to outdoor, all these things, in without Laporta. I mean, I do think those because they play a lot of heavy personnel. So if you don't have your normal heavy personnel out there, as good as Brock Wright is at blocking, you still don't have that extra pass catcher. And Jameson Williams just a little bit different style than a big-bodied Brock Wright who can win in the middle.
Mm.
What's my guy David Montgomery got to do to get a carry inside the 5?
uh, Great question. I think probably something to do with a Jalen Carter, Jalen Phillips, Jalen Hunt, like all these people with J names in the middle of that defense. Probably not play them. That would be one of the
Okay.
ways I would
Fair.
suggest for him to have a little bit more success.
Cynthia, let me ask you something and this is coming from a guy that picked the Chiefs to win last week, but I also picked the Lions too. So I'm on fire. But having said that, I do think, but I didn't think the Chiefs would win the division. I picked the Chargers. It was a coin flip between them and the Broncos. I thought the Broncos defense is going to be elite. Everybody did. But isn't it kind of time? And I get it. He didn't throw a touchdown yesterday, but they were 7 of 15, I think, on third down. They only ran the ball for 59 yards. At what point, or does it take a division title where we stop, saying what Bo Nix isn't and maybe start talking about what he is?
I think the hard part you're always going to have in football is, when you see what feels like baffling results. Like if you look at least over the course of the whole season, not necessarily a game yesterday, but Bo Nix for the first 3 quarters looks different than Bo Nix in the fourth quarter. So you're kind of like, well, who is he?
Yeah.
Right? Like, is he the guy we see make these, 1-point wins or, one score differential wins? Or is he the guy in the beginning who, the screen pass becomes a crutch? And I think part of it also, and Sean Payton says it out loud, is that Sean really values not taking sacks. So is he making decisions faster and with more fear in mind, or is this just what they're asking him to? Like, there's a lot of confounding things that happen kind of all at once. But I think when you have big swings in your profile from one quarter to the next, I do think it's kind of fair to be like, well, what are we even seeing here?
Mm.
Because this defense appears to be, late January, early February like defense. So what's going on offense?
Cynthia, let me ask you this. We'll stay on the Broncos here for a second. If you're taking a team with a second-year quarterback and an 8-game winning streak, you taking the Broncos or the Patriots?
I'm taking the Broncos because, number one, I just think that Broncos defense, look what they did at Patrick Mahomes yesterday without their reigning defensive player of the year, without a guy in the middle Alex Singleton, who's a very important piece, without Jonah Ellis. And they like to mix up their front and bring in a lot of different pressure packages. So I just think, and it's not to say I don't like the Patriots defense, because I do, but I think that, number one, to win the AFC West, you're a bit more battle tested. So, and to win the East right now, I know the Bills are in the East, but I think that we can agree maybe this isn't the best year for the Jets or the Dolphins. So you're having a schedule, a little bit of that benefit of the schedule for the Patriots. And I'm not talking about quarterback play. I'm talking about, you asked me which team I'm taking. So because Drake May is lighting the world up, and it's really fun to watch. But I just think that elite defense is, you can't top that.
So May over Knicks, but Broncos over Patriots?
Well, I actually think we end up seeing, that would be what I would like to see in my AFC Championship game. Wouldn't it be nice to not have, and no shade to the Chiefs, because we were fortunate to be able to watch Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be the best of all time, but I'm just I'm ready for some new blood in the deep playoffs.
What about Vrabel versus Peyton, if we're going to line these two teams up?
Well, what about which one?
Vrabel versus Peyton. If we're lining up Broncos and Patriots.
I mean, look, it's fun either way, and I think Vrabel, even though he won't win Coach of the Year, he very much should be in consideration for that. But Sean Payton's already done it, man. He's already climbed that mountain, and it's kind of cool to see. Vrabel's like Payton in 2 years, right? Vrabel will get there. I think this is a team with championship aspirations, but just I think, I don't know. Sean being able to out-coach whatever's going on with Bo Nix is pretty impressive.
Now, Cynthia, I want to be careful here, because listen, I hate to be a victim of the moment, but I do want to ask you something, because it was the way you phrased the conversation about Mahomes, where we almost kind of put him in the rearview mirror for a second, right? You're like, oh, he's going to be the greatest of all time, and it's like, and I got to ask, and I get it, it's Denver and it's Buffalo, but he's only completing, a little right at about 55% of his passes in November. It's, lower than his completion percentage for the season. He got outplayed by Allen and Knicks in back-to-back games. If you just look head-to-head, and I get it, it's not that linear, but how careful should we be, or do we need to be, about writing off Mahomes?
I don't know if you can ever write off Mahomes. I will say keeping track of their O-line is, when you're playing a team with a pressure front like the Broncos, is going to be something that matters, because, for better or for worse, everyone gives their best game to Patrick Mahomes. People get up. Absolutely. I mean, when you have coverage stacks coming for Patrick Mahomes, that guys are specifically dialed in on one thing that they really, there wasn't just one of them, too. McMillan had two yesterday, right? So, this is an interesting phenomenon, and you're just getting everyone's best every single time. There's no dropping a random inexplicable game to the Jaguars, whatever. You're just, that's not happening, right? I know they lost to the Jags, but I'm talking about the Chargers. That was strange. But everyone gives you their absolute freaking best, and so you're going to have to bring your absolute best every single week. And marginal things, things that seem small, incremental O linemen being out, really ends up adding up, and that's where things change.
So, you probably have noticed I like to find patterns and compare things. So let's stick with the Chiefs, and let's bring in the Baltimore Ravens, both at 5-5, both teams that I don't think any of us have thought are having the year that maybe we thought they would at this point. Who do you feel better about moving forward at this point, the Chiefs or the Ravens? Just through the end of the year.
The Ravens, because the Ravens, they still have they're still staring down a lot of their divisional games left.
Mm-hmm.
So, that just makes things easier. They've got 2 Steelers left. They've got 2 Bengals left. Like, they haven't really started their play.
And they get the Jets.
Right. And if you're looking at, what's going on with the Chiefs, they're already – all these head-to-heads. I mean, they lost to the Bills. That's a head-to-head that will come down to mattering when these playoffs and wild card seeds are determined. So you've got that. You've got one with the Jags. I mean, I don't know if they're a real contender or not, but head-to-head loss to them matters a lot. The formula is a little unforgiving, but we know what it is. And the Chiefs have actually dropped some important games that would go a long way in help them determining whether they get the final playoff seeds or not.
Cynthia, let me ask you something. Is Jacksonville good?
I don't know who Jacksonville. There's a few teams that I have no idea who they are. I'm not sure. I mean, they have pieces that are good, and they've got a coach who has a game plan that is very effective. But if it doesn't go right, they're not great at adapting. So when it goes well, they're fine. When it doesn't go well, it's not good. Decidedly not good.
So you've piqued my interest. Who are the other teams that you have no idea who they are?
The Falcons and the Panthers, no clue.
We brought them up in the first segment. We agree with you.
Falcons and Panthers, we don't know what to do with them
either. Yes. What'd you ask me? Ravi goes, what do we do with the Panthers? Are the Panthers good? I don't know, but I do know that the Falcons should be better. I do think that.
Correct. There's no reason. Bijan Robinson, Drake London, great game. Okay, I understand Michael Penix Jr. got hurt. They have the number 1 pass defense, and you're letting a rookie destroy you. And Bryce Young, I mean, that was the game you would expect from Bryce Young, but we have not seen that consistently. But what is going? I don't know. I have no. And I just got back from Berlin, and I watched them in person against the Colts, and it felt like they had a very strong game plan to stop Daniel Jones and the Colts. Perhaps this was a trap game that they were the Panthers suck. I don't know. I'm not sure what the difference is, but I can tell you I don't know who the Falcons are down to down.
Okay, of quarterbacks that we've seen glimpses of that have been a little underwhelming, who could best benefit from a change either of offensive philosophy or scenery in general? Stroud, Murray, or Lawrence?
Oof, that's a great question. I mean, I think the most gifted quarterback of those is probably Stroud, even though sometimes we've seen some middling results. Maybe you think, I don't know, but I like Stroud's upside better. How about let's put it that way, right? He has the profile of a modern kind of the guy that translates from college really well with the guys who are also coming out of college. So, I mean, I don't know if he would. I just think what Stroud would benefit from is not having a New England style play caller in Houston, where he's not a New England style quarterback. I just don't think the philosophies are aligned. I don't actually think he needs a change of scenery. I think he needs a change of philosophy because the pieces are there. I mean, Nico Collins is a very, very strong piece. Dalton Schultz, they're not as bad as their record or how you feel. When I close my eyes and think about a Houston's offense, I'm like, well, their defense is winning them games, right? But there's more talent there. I think it just needs to have a refreshed look at how it all pieces together.
What about Kyler and Lawrence?
I don't know what I think about Kyler Murray. But
He's hard.
I know Trevor Lawrence. It's tricky because there's moments where you're like, okay, I get it. And then there's other moments where you're like, okay, I don't get it. He's confusing too. The fact that he and Marvin Harrison Jr. couldn't get on the same page for as long as it took. The fact that Trey McBride has to like punch people in the face to catch a ball. It's just hard to understand because look at what happens with Jacoby Brissett. And I think he's one of the most I think all the commercials with the backup should be Jacoby
He's
Brissett.
he's a
I think
pro's
he's
pro,
really
isn't he?
wonderful. Yeah, I love him. Like the fact that he set a record for the number of attempts was it just. I'm glad he's like going to be a trivia question in NFL history because I really, really like him a lot. But the fact that it looks so much different with Jacoby Brissett tells me there's some disconnect. I don't know what the disconnect is, but there is a disconnect when it looks like vastly different. So I don't know. But Trevor Lawrence, I think also they kind of fall into this thing where it's like, are their bad habits so, ingrained that we can't get them out of the bad habit mold or not? Whereas CJ Stroud, I don't think that, the imprint is too large to change yet.
Yeah, so it's just kind of weird how we've seen some of these reformation projects of like even Darnold temporarily or Geno Smith or
So
Mac Jones to some degree. Even though Mac Jones was good
Mac Jones has been great.
as he was good
Yeah.
as a rookie, but I always kind of wonder about like this rehab, refurnish furniture for some of these supposed talented quarterbacks that I've seen play well in stretches.
I think it matters what your coach's vision for you happens to be.
Mm.
I mean, I saw Sam Darnold in one game yesterday kind of battle all of his demons at once. I know they lost, but it was pretty cool to see him not feel like you can tell there's some level of trust between him and Clint Kubiak, him and Mike McDonald, because he kept going. I mean, he had a bad game, like very bad game, but they're still in at the end because he kept going. And I know the run game really helped, but it was also passes to running backs. That's something that was different from some of the other Sam Darnold moments we've seen. So it's also about having a system where someone believes in you. It's a really big deal. I think that, look, Sam Darnold, like his God-given, his height, arm, all the things that, you can't teach. There's no amount of film study that's going to make him taller, right? That's where I think what you're seeing there is Sam Darnold using what his assets that he was, his genetic assets are in combination with a great plan for him and learning. And I just think there's some disconnect between those three things for Kyler Murray.
Yeah, going into yesterday, man, he'd only had 6 picks, Sam Darnold, and in Jigba, those guys were flourishing. Like, I get it, 4 picks yesterday wasn't good, but he had been playing at a high level.
But they're still in it though at the end. Even though he had that crappy game, at the end it was I know it was an exceptionally long field goal, but whatever. But point being is, it's not like it was 35 to 7. They could have easily won that game.
And Stafford's on a heater too, so for them to hang in there, it's like, yeah.
So let me stick on Sam Darnold here for a minute. Do you think the Minnesota Vikings experience is going to inform what the Indianapolis Colts do at the end of this year?
I think the Indianapolis Colts have already telegraphed what they're going to do, because paying that much, and by paying I mean equity and draft picks for Sauce Gardner, means they already got quarterback right. They feel it.
Okay.
Because if they didn't, they wouldn't have given up 2 firsts and a player for a corner.
Do you think even independently of what we've seen J.J. McCarthy look like, that Minnesota would go back and think maybe we shouldn't have taken what Sam Darnold was able to do here for granted?
I don't know. I know that it feels like we've seen a lot of J.J. McCarthy. I know it's his second season technically, but we really haven't seen much of J.J. McCarthy.
Sure.
And as much as I'd like to say, like, of course Minnesota wants to win games. Of course, Justin Jefferson will go down as an all-time great, and you don't want to quote unquote waste any of his good years or however we term that, right? But I don't think we've seen enough of JJ, and there aren't just like young franchise level quarterbacks growing on trees. Like, every year we talk about how the draft is not a good quarterback draft, blah, 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 blah. Like, Tim Ward's struggling. Of course, it takes some time, and now college and NFL, in a lot of ways, they're getting more and more different from each other. And if, I always go back to this NIL stuff because I think it's horrible with I don't care about NIL. I care about the transfer portal because what happens is these guys play for so many different colleges. They never really kind of go to, level 2 quarterbacking. So they're stuck at level 1 quarterbacking, and then you go to the next level at the NFL, and even if they've been in college for 6 years, it's still freaking hard to learn a much thicker playbook. It's way different. So I don't know. I think Minnesota's like, if you think you know what we've got here, like you're an oracle because we don't even know what we've got here.
So I don't even think there is one, but because whether it's the age or how long he's been in the league or just how prolific he's been this year, Stafford is cemented his Hall of Fame status. And I used to argue it up until a couple of years ago. But this is ridiculous, right? What are we up to? 25 touchdowns in a row with no picks. He's 27-2. They're 8-2, and they're still trying to get fully healthy. How good of a level is Stafford playing at for you, who always crunches numbers?
And I always love Stafford too, because to me, Michigan people, we always, unless we're playing the Rams, we want Matthew Stafford to succeed. It's when you look at what Stafford is best at, and I actually created a metric for him specifically because the thing he was always great at was soccer. Yeah, the play after being pressured, including sacks, so an actual pressure, not like I don't know what other people consider pressure, but like where someone comes in the halo of his vision, where you'd be pressured, under pressure throws. He's the most accurate quarterback that we've seen, the play after being pressured, which is a very important metric. Now, Drake May is starting to profile like that as well, but Matthew Stafford,
that's incredible.
Literally, I created that metric because of him. So, to me, I'm just really glad to see that the heavy personnel that they're using, 13, so 3 tight ends, et cetera, using their running backs to really be blockers, using their tight ends obviously as blockers, and even asking wide receivers to do that too. That's where I'm really glad that, Sean McVay is like getting the most out of the opportunity for Matthew Stafford to like not have to be so prolific at that thing that he is great at until at least the end of the season, right? Like, so I just think this is a really good example of, the system and the style matching what the production and the highest form of this, effectiveness for a quarterback happens to be. So that those two things working together, you see some great results.
Somehow we, in the first segment this morning, way back when we were talking about like front offices and McVay versus Shanahan and all these coaches kind of head to head. And the thing that like the NFL experts always say about McVay that kind of made him different from these other offensive boy geniuses, and Shanahan is probably in this discussion as well. We'll see what happens with Ben Johnson and some of these guys, but we've also seen it not work, is that McVay was able to cast his vision throughout the building, right, of excellence and a way to do it. And it's kind of become the culture which has worked for him. But, you got to look at, are we looking at like Demoff and Les Snead and some of these guys that like the Howie Rosemans of the world where their drafting and their personnel, and remember when they sold out to win the Super Bowl, they had no money, they're cash strapped. And here they are again, just a couple of years later, like right back in the thick of it. Do we need to be looking at their front office in a different light?
I think that the difference between, there's two differences.
Remember when they moved off of Ramsey and that was a hot take? It was like, wait, what?
Hot take. Yeah. So, but like, I think that, Les Snead and Kevin Demoff, they just don't, Howie might talk to the media a little more than them, like Howie might, just a little nudge, and Howie might make more mid-season trades than them. And, they like, I don't know, sometimes media people like to be talked to by people like that. But I think ultimately they are given that respect. And that if you look at like, to me, the way to look at it from what football people think is like who gets hired away, right? Like, the GM in Detroit, where did he come from?
Yeah.
The Rams.
Yeah.
What about Jacksonville? Like they're all proliferating. Jacksonville, all these other places. So I'd look at that, and then you can compare that to, it is up there with Shanahan because, Adam Peters from the Commanders, he comes from San Francisco. So I would just look at those spaces, and not to say that Howie doesn't have as many of those, but if you did some version of media mentions to hires, I think some of these other people have maybe more hires and fewer media mentions. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I get it.
I think we found your new metric that you're gonna come up with.
There we go. Yeah.
Cynthia, we appreciate the time so much as always. Great to talk to you, and we'll catch up again soon.
And you've got a new metric, right? Pressures after a pressure.
There we go.
I like it.
There we go. Exactly. Have a great day.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Thanks, Cynthia. That's Cynthia Frelund from NFL Network. Oh, that's a great metric.
Pressures after. I mean, I'm a Stafford honk.
Yeah. Homer.
I mean, maybe numero uno of guys that have never played for a team that I like.
Yeah, it's full on randos.